Hello, I'm Professor Joseph Holbrook at Florida International University in Miami, Florida, and this is the second lecture for our series on Introduction to Latin American Civilization, LAH 2020, and today we're going to talk about the Inca Empire. So, let me show you, here's a picture of the extent of the Incan Empire along the west coast of South America. You see that it takes in Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, parts of Bolivia, Chile, parts of Chile. It was quite an extensive empire. Tawantinsuyo was the name of the empire in Quechua, which means the land of the four quarters. It was the largest empire on earth at the time. The distance from the northern edge of Tawantinsuyo to the southern tip of the empire was as great as the distance from St. Petersburg, Russia, to Egypt. Quite extensive. So, this is taken from Charles Mann's book 1491, and it's the chapter on Tawantinsuyo. Peru is one of the world's cultural well springs, according to the author of the chapter. It's a place as important to the human saga as the Fertile Crescent. Of course, the Fertile Crescent is the area in the Middle East where the Babylonian and Assyrian empires and Israel, Judea, all arose in the Fertile Crescent. The area significance, that is the area of the Incan Empire, has been scarcely appreciated outside the Andes, partly because the Spaniards so thoroughly ravaged the Incan culture. The full history of the fall of the Incan Empire did not appear until 300 years after the events it chronicled in a book or series of books by William H. Prescott called The History of the Conquest of Peru, and published in 1847. Oddly, somehow I came across a copy of this in my teenage years and was reading it. That was, I guess, a indication of what was to come. Tawantinsuyo meant the land of the four quarters. This was the name of the Incan Empire in Quechua. In 1491, the Inca ruled the greatest empire on earth, says Charles Mann, bigger than Ming Dynasty in China, Ivan the Great's expanding Russia, bigger than the Ottoman Empire, bigger than the Aztec Triple Alliance in Mexico. The Inca dominion extended over a staggering 32 degrees of latitude, as if a single power held sway from St. Petersburg to Cairo. The empire encompassed every imaginable type of terrain, from rainforests of the upper Amazonia to the deserts of the Peruvian coast, and the 20,000-foot peaks of the Andes between. If imperial potential is judged in terms of environmental adaptability, according, says Oxford historian Felipe Fernandez Armesto, the Inca were the most impressive empire builders of their day. And comparing, just for the sake of comparison, this is a rendering of the Incan Empire in comparison to the United States. Highland Peru. One of the things that the Incan Empire had was an amazing, extraordinary ecological diversity. It's the only place on earth where millions insist against all apparent logic on living at 10,000 or even 14,000 feet or so above sea level. The only place on earth where people live at such a high altitude. Nowhere else have people lived for so many thousands of years at such a high altitude. The Inca homeland was so steep, with slopes of more than 65 degrees from the horizontal. And it's also narrow. The distance from the Pacific shore to the mountaintops is less than 75 or 50 miles. Ecologists postulate that the first large-scale human societies tended to arise where geography provided a wide range of altitudes and topographies within a short distance. One such place is the Fertile Crescent, where today Iraq and Iran is located. Another is Peru. In a short traverse from the mountains to the ocean, the travelers pass through 20 of the world's 34 principal types of environment. One of the reasons why this is true is because it provides more diversity of produce. Here's a picture of the Andes Mountains in the former terrain of the Incan Empire. To survive this steep hodgepodge of ecosystems, Andean communities often set out colonies to live up or downslope in places with resources unavailable at home. For example, they would send people to live on the coasts where they could get fish and shellfish. Or in the coastal river valleys, they could grow beans, squash, and cotton. And along the foothills of the Andes, they could grow maize, potatoes, and quinoa. And in the heights of the mountains, they could care for llamas and alpacas. Villagers in the satellite settlements exchanged products with the center, sending the beans uphill and obtaining llama jerky in return. The name that has been coined for this kind of economic arrangement is the vertical archipelagos. Vertical archipelagos. The Wari and the Tiwanaku. The earliest period of hegemony was that of the Chavan, which was from 700 BC to the dawn of the Christian era on the coast of Peru. And the next after Chavan's decline was the time of two great powers, the Wari and the Tiwanaku, which you see over here in the picture. The Wari is along the upper part of the picture and along the coast of Peru, and the Tiwanaku goes down into Bolivia and Lake Titicaca. And here is another slightly better image. The technologically expert Empire of the Wari held sway over the coastline previously under the Chavan. Tiwanaku